My beloved child, stop scrolling. Silence every voice but mine. This is not coincidence, it is divine interruption. You've been asking for a sign. You've whispered prayers in the dark, aching for clarity. I heard every cry, I saw every tear, and now I am answering. What you are about to hear is not advice, it is instruction. Not encouragement, but divine unveiling. You've been walking heavy, carrying weight I never asked you to hold, confused by closed doors, tired of waiting, wondering if I've gone silent. I have not. I've been preparing you for this exact moment. This is holy ground. What you're about to receive will confront the lies, unlock buried truth, and awaken the very reason I kept you breathing. But listen to me. Do not click away, because the next few minutes will be the most pivotal encounter your spirit has had in years. I have been closer than your very breath, counting every tear, witnessing every silent scream, waiting until your inner strength matured enough so that what I reveal would not crush you, but commission you. The version of yourself that stood yesterday was not yet able to handle the vastness of this truth. But now you are ready. I did not allow the shaking to break you. I allowed it to empty you. What I held back, I did so to protect the destiny that hell sought to abort before it even began. Yet this is no time for hesitation. I need your complete focus. Every trial you have faced, all the delays, the breakdowns, the betrayals, was never random. They were the preparation for this defining moment where I hand you what the enemy fought hardest to keep from your grasp. This is no ordinary message. It is the divine scroll sealed by my authority, now being unsealed directly within your spirit. Prepare yourself to be unraveled and redefined, for nothing about your life will remain the same once I speak what I have long concealed from your understanding. That persistent stirring you dismissed as anxiety, that was me. That sudden stillness in your soul, unexplainable by words, that was my presence, making space for revelation. You thought clarity was fading, but what you were actually experiencing was the removal of every false narrative that could have interfered with this sacred moment. What you sensed when something felt off was no mistake. It was discernment. I placed alarms within your spirit that no one else could hear, because I was setting you apart for this moment. You walked through rooms filled with noise, yet your heart heard the silent invitation I extended. The heaviness you bore was not a burden, but my voice cloaked in silence, drawing you deeper into dimensions where human logic fails and divine understanding begins. You are not spiritually unstable. You are spiritually awakened. What I am now revealing will confirm that what you have perceived is not only real, but prophetic. The spiritual warfare you faced was never punishment. It was proof of the weight of the truth I had kept for this very hour. You thought you were weak because you were breaking, but in truth, the breaking was your anointing in progress. I had to sever your dependence on human words so that you could finally trust my voice unfiltered, without fear. The urgency you feel is my call to a place demanding total surrender. There is no turning back. I am pouring oil into your wounds, and that oil will ignite the message I planted in you before you were ever wounded. Every unanswered question is now colliding with divine explanation. Do not run. Do not resist. Do not distract yourself. This is the moment confusion becomes clarity, the hidden becomes known, and what you thought was imagination is confirmed as revelation from me. Child, do not mistake the stillness I allowed upon your path as my withdrawal. It was not abandonment, but protection. The times you begged for a sign and heard nothing were not proof of neglect, but evidence that the sacred had entered the room. In the pause, I arranged the unseen, aligned conversations you have yet to hear, orchestrated decisions behind closed doors that will directly impact your destiny. You didn't hear me because I was speaking not in words you recognized, but through movement, silence, and restraint. Had I spoken too soon, your eagerness would have outrun wisdom, and you would have entered an unformed place. I was not punishing you with silence. I was preparing the soil of your spirit to receive seeds of truth so powerful they needed stillness to take root. I was expanding your capacity to recognize me, even when your senses failed. I never left you in the delay. I was right there, waiting until your spiritual ears could discern noise from instruction. Heaven does not rush. Eternity does not panic. The delay you feared was me measuring time against transformation. I would not give you the next step until I knew your identity could bear its weight. What seemed like waiting was divine insulation. I was hiding you, not ignoring you. While others chased applause and platforms, I cloaked you in obscurity to shield you from premature exposure that would have ruined you. The calm that scared you was the holy chamber where I refined your perception. You were not lost. You were being rewired. I had to remove the familiar sounds around you so you could finally recognize the whisper only true seekers hear. This unveiling is no accident. This moment you stand in is perfectly timed. You did not miss me. You matured into me. Everything you've endured was never just survival. It was conditioning your soul to carry what comes next. I did not rush your process because I wasn't merely interested in your arrival. I was focused on your capacity to hold revelation without collapsing. There is a truth that can only be received when the inner chambers of your heart have been cleared of idols, false hopes, and noisy desires. I watched, not from a distance, but with divine precision, allowing each season to shape, chisel, and quiet you. I did not give you the full picture because you were not yet strong enough to live in the tension between knowing and trusting. But now your spirit has stretched. Your reliance on human validation has been stripped away. Your ears no longer itch for comfort, but are open to the eternal. So I tell you plainly, this moment has arrived because you no longer cling to old patterns that blocked my voice. You have released the temporary to embrace the eternal. For that, I can finally reveal what is burned in my heart for you from the beginning. I have waited for the moment when your identity no longer hinges on performance, applause, or results. This delay was assigned to kill fear of man and awaken the fear of the Lord. Now your posture has shifted. You no longer seek elevation, you long to be entrusted, and that longing opens the vault. I am giving you access, not to satisfy curiosity, but to initiate divine responsibility. These are not mere words. They are keys. This is not insight to admire. It is instruction to obey. You are not late to your calling. I was merely waiting for you to become a vessel that would not leak under pressure. The timing was not flawed. It was perfect. What seemed like delay was mercy cloaked in slowness. Had I given this to you a year earlier, it would have crushed your joy beneath the weight of spiritual warfare you were not yet trained to fight. But look at you now, bruised yet unbroken, weary but willing, tired yet still trembling at my word. You did not give up, and because of that, I can now trust you with what I reserved only for the yielded. You stand on the brink of instruction that will unlock miracles, not just for you, but for all connected to your obedience. Do not shrink back now. You did not endure this long only to falter at the finish line. You have been stripped so you could be sent, silenced so you could be saturated, alone so you could be aligned. I waited until every counterfeit solution lost its grip on your heart. Now I can speak and know you will not twist my words to suit your preference. This is why I waited, because now you will not only hear me, but carry my words with the reverence they deserve. For that reason, I will not hold back what must be said next. Brace yourself. Not comfort, but truth is coming, and truth rarely arrives gently. This message is not crafted to soothe feelings, but to cut through the illusions you have clung to for too long. My words are not to flatter your understanding, but to confront the foundations that have quietly cracked beneath the surface. I am tearing down every structure built from survival rather than surrender. What is coming will unsettle what you settled for. You have unknowingly surrounded yourself with mental scaffolding that helped you function in storms. But those supports have now become barriers preventing you from soaring. You asked for clarity. I must begin by revealing how deeply you have misunderstood what I have been building inside you. Some of my no's you called rejection. I call them redirection. Seasons you labeled failures were sacred times of rerouting. I cannot let you move forward with wrong conclusions about what broke you, because what broke you is exactly what I am using to unlock you. I am not here to soothe your version of the story. I am here to rewrite it completely, starting with the lies you accepted about why some walked away, why doors slammed shut, and why prayers seemed unanswered. It was not your lack of faith, it was my intervention. I blocked access to what you thought would help, because it would have slowed down what I am about to initiate. But here your rebuilding begins. Not with a new start, but with a new becoming. I am awakening a version of you that grief could not kill, betrayal could not bury, and fear could not contain. The pain you tried to flee will now become the platform you stand on, not to declare victory, but to reveal my glory. The shaking is necessary. I am shaking you free from comparison, shame, and self-imposed limits that caged you in identities I never gave you. I am removing titles others stamped on your life and restoring what I called you before your first breath. You were never meant to chase validation. You were created to carry divine purpose, and it's time you walk like it. You are not fragile, broken beyond use, or damaged goods hiding behind spiritual language. You are chosen, you are forged, you are deeply seen. Now you are being rebuilt, not on feelings or assumptions, but on truth. Unshakable, pure, undeniable truth. This is why the shaking came, not to punish but to purify, not to confuse but to correct. I will not stop shaking until all that cannot stand in my presence falls away. It's time to stop fearing what collapses and start trusting what I resurrect in its place. What I am about to reveal will not be easy to digest, but it will set you completely free. You never saw the silent revolutions I triggered for you, the shifting of timelines, routing of people, divine interruptions that rerouted disasters before they reached you. While you wondered if anything was happening, I was moving pieces your eyes were not ready to understand. I didn't ask permission, I secured your future. Doors didn't just close. I sealed them with authority to prevent you from binding your purpose to places that could never nourish it. Relationships unraveling without explanation. It wasn't chaos. It was my hand removing contamination from your atmosphere. You were unaware of how close you came to compromise. How many times you nearly embraced choices that would have delayed your destiny for years. But I intervened. I made you uncomfortable with what others called blessings, because I refused to let you settle for counterfeit callings. You saw separation. I saw sanctification. Every detour was divine. Every silence had sound. Every no was soaked in foresight. You thought I ignored your prayers. I was rerouting their delivery. I was stripping the stage to prepare a sanctuary. I needed space to birth what cannot be born in noise. The frustrations you faced were not random misfortunes. They were aftershocks of holy destruction. I initiated to spare you from collapsing under weight you were not designed to bear. Your enemies were silenced, not by your defense, but by my strategy. You did not have to prove yourself. I was proving my covenant by disrupting what was not aligned with your destiny. I changed locations, removed names, delayed confirmations, and stirred waters until only what I authorized remained. The collapse of certain plans was not sabotage, it was spiritual surgery performed with precision. I didn't announce my work because I didn't want you to interfere. If I had explained every realignment, you might have tried to save what was blocking your breakthrough. Now the dust settles, and you begin to see what I guarded all along. Your access to unfiltered, uninterrupted, undeniable truth. You are not where you were a year ago, not just in place, but in perception. The people you lost were necessary. The connections I blocked were divine delays that preserved your destiny. None of it was punishment. It was preparation for what I am about to reveal without distraction. The interruptions were interventions. I allowed discomfort so you wouldn't settle in spaces too small for what I planted in you. You prayed for blessing on your plans, but I dismantled them because I saw how they would collapse under the pressure of what I have chosen to release through you. Release regret for what failed. Don't mourn what fell away. What you thought was loss was room being made for clarity, calling, and wisdom that can only be forged in fire. Every hidden movement was me answering prayers you didn't know how to voice. Now, with your spirit clear and open, I will speak what I could not before, because interference is gone. I didn't keep you waiting out of indifference. I held back because your heart would have mishandled the weight without mature roots. You saw silence as absence. I saw strategy. Had I opened doors too soon, wolves would have entered, not welcome. Had I spoken too early, insecurity would have distorted my instructions into anxious striving. You asked me to move in days when your soul feared surrender. What you called delay was my hand placing barriers between you and outcomes not yet sanctified. I could not release blessings until I trusted you to steward, not idolize them. You didn't realize timing is protection. Sometimes the highest mercy is withholding. Had I released what you wanted on demand, it would have undone you. You weren't ready to stand in that place without shrinking or striving. I watched you make plans and attach dates to dreams, then unraveled them, not to frustrate, but to purify your trust. I was confronting your expectations, not ignoring them. What you thought would bring joy, I knew would later bring compromise. What you expected to satisfy, I knew would suffocate. Because I love you too deeply to give what you want without regard for what's best, I waited until your spirit shifted from entitlement to alignment. You had to outgrow the version of yourself that used blessings to validate worth. You had to evolve from receiver to revealer, one who reflects my heart through answers, not just collects them. This transition required time. I would not rush the sacred work I was doing in secret. It was not punishment. It was pruning, patience, divine refinement. There are things I planted in you that needed longer gestation than you expected. Purpose cannot be birthed before it's fully formed. If I let you move too fast, you'd gather applause before developing accuracy, diluting the anointing I placed on your life. I needed you to walk through nights with only faith, so when doors opened, you'd know who carried you through the darkness. My answers did not arrive late. They came layered in wisdom you had not yet grown into. Can you see now? The blocks, pauses, and unexplained silences, all doors I chose not to open because timing would have destroyed what I intended. Now, with your heart refined and your hands unclenched, I begin to pour out what I have prepared. You no longer crave answers to feel secure. You crave my voice because you've learned it is more valuable than the outcome. That shift is why I can finally entrust you with what I could not reveal before. Everything hidden will now be uncovered, and all postponed will be presented, not because time changed me, but because you did. Certain doors of the soul cannot be opened by comfort. You were led through one. You did not suffer because I punished you. Pain was the language that translated what peace alone could never teach. I did not cause your heartbreak, but I used it. I did not orchestrate betrayal, but I permitted it to expose what lurked beneath. Attachments masked as loyalty, identities built on fragile approval, and dreams rooted in fear, not faith. When you asked me to take you deeper, you didn't realize depth requires excavation, digging through buried things you never knew existed. Your grief softened calluses grown from disappointment. Your loneliness became the sacred silence where your ears grew sensitive to my whisper. You cried unseen tears. I collected every drop. No suffering was unnoticed, no scar wasted. I repurposed it all. Clarity does not always come as gentle reassurance. Sometimes it comes through agony that pulls back the veil, revealing what no longer belongs where I lead you. I allowed you to reach the edge, not to destroy you, but to show you what remains unshakable when all else is stripped away. The strength you now carry was forged in seasons without applause, without quick answers, and where prayers felt like echoes in the night. Yet in that very night, I rewired your understanding. You once saw pain as something to escape. Now you see it as transformation. You have stopped asking, "Why me?" and started asking, "What now?" That shift is the soil for your spiritual acceleration. Pain did not define you. It refined you. It burned away surface-level faith that depended on circumstances and grew a holy resilience that clings to me regardless of outcome. Every time you thought you would not survive, I silently strengthened your resolve. Every breakdown that embarrassed you before others became an altar where pride died and dependence was born. You felt abandoned, but were drawn closer. You were trained in the sacred art of persistence. Now, the clarity before you is not mere information. It is revelation born of experience. You understand what no book or sermon could teach, because the school of suffering carved wisdom into your spirit, wisdom no enemy can steal. I let you touch the flame, not to burn you, but so you carry fire that ignites others without harming them. This is why you could not skip the painful parts. I needed you to walk through them, so what I reveal will not be misunderstood. Had you not felt breaking, you would have mistaken your new strength for pride. But now you know the cost, the breaking, and because of that, I entrust you with power that humbles and purpose that heals. So know, your pain was not wasted. It was the passage into vision. Now that you have walked through it, the veil lifts, and I am ready to reveal what pain prepared you to see. Every tear you thought was unnoticed reached me before it left your eyes. The moments you covered your face in the dark, wondering if anyone understood. I did. I never turned away. I didn't leave when the weight was unbearable. I stood beside you, silently holding space, knowing that breaking was also birthing. You didn't see me intervene right away, not for lack of compassion, but because I waited for surrender to ripen within you. Your strength was admirable, but your collapse was the invitation I waited for. You fought to hold it together, thinking survival meant control. But when your voice trembled and strength slipped away, your soul whispered the prayer I longed to answer. I did not interrupt your grief. I honored it. I let it run its course to unclog places where pride, independence, and fear built walls. You couldn't feel me because I wasn't stopping the tears. I was letting them carry away what you no longer needed. The sobs you hid became a sound I immediately responded to. There are prayers from lips and cries from spirit. I always answer the latter in unexpected ways. You wanted immediate intervention, but I knew you'd grow deeper if I let the process unfold. Timing is not cruelty, it's completion. I waited until your cry turned from escape to reaching for me alone. Many asked for help, but few invited me to reshape their hearts. Your secret anguish prepared you for divine visitation. I was not inactive. I observed every layer of pain, peeling back illusions you didn't realize you accepted. I waited until your belief in me was no longer rooted in disappointment, but anchored in devotion. Even when you didn't understand, I saw you choose me without confirmation. I chose you back. But I did. The very strength that made you stand again after breaking was me infusing your weakness with resilience. Now that the season of hidden sorrow has worked, I am moving. What was internal will soon be external. What you cried for in silence will manifest publicly. Hands that once trembled in despair will be raised in testimony. Delays are over. The intervention you begged for is underway. I am setting into place what was once tangled. I am repurposing what was meant for destruction, not because your pain forced my hand, but because your heart yielded while bleeding. I will never ignore the cry of the surrendered. What was whispered in pain will be shouted in joy. All who wondered where I was while you suffered will witness my faithfulness as I lift you into the fulfillment those tears watered. This is where pain turns to purpose. Tears to triumph, not theory, but reality. I was there, I am here, and now I act, not just in your life, but through it. It was not abandonment, but alignment. The disconnection you mourned was not loss, but clearing. I did not strip you to isolate you. I pruned to preserve the purity of what lies ahead. You wept over those leaving, trying to hold on to what I removed, not realizing their presence was distraction, not provision. Some you called loyal were only loyal to the smaller you, who stayed silent and dimmed your light so others could shine. But I did not anoint you to shrink for comfort. I called you to rise, even if alone. You didn't lose them, I took them. I revealed hidden intentions behind smiles and spiritual words. I uncovered what you avoided to confront. I let masks fall so you wouldn't be tangled in sabotage when I elevate you where discernment is essential. You prayed for protection. I answered not with comfort, but clarity. You asked for peace. I gave it not by agreement, but removal. I had to break attachments built on emotion, not purpose. You called it betrayal. I call it exposure. You were never meant to carry those unwilling to grow. I did not design your spirit to bear dead weight climbing toward your divine assignment. That weight would have crushed your mission, so I intervened quietly and strategically. I unraveled connections you never thought you'd release. I watched you feel separation sting because sorrow would become soil for deeper intimacy with me. I needed your full attention. I needed your legions. While their voices filled your ears, you would question mine. I am not sorry for removing what could not come. I am not apologizing for rearranging your community so your calling is not compromised. This is not rejection, it's redirection. Though painful, it is holy. You may not understand now, but soon you will thank me. The doors I open now would have been blocked by those with vision too small to see what I placed in you. This next journey demands purity of perspective, a sharpened spirit, and a heart that never looks back. You are no longer who you were when they left. You have grown in silence, now moving forward unburdened. Don't chase what I have closed. Don't reach back toward what I removed. If I let them stay, they would not protect what I will reveal through you. I have assigned new voices, new connections, aligned with my spirit, not comfort zones. Take a breath, release the past. This is not a time for mourning endings, but preparing for beginnings. Those who remain will run with you. Those who left opened a door to your destiny. Stop replaying their words, actions, or silences. This was never about your worthiness. It was me protecting a process they could not understand, a calling they were never meant to carry. I saw their influence shifting your identity, molding your choices, and your pursuit of their approval distorting what I birthed in you. You tried to move forward, dragging voices, pulling you back to chains I freed you from. I did not see your depth because their sight was never meant to mirror your becoming. I could not let your transformation stall in familiar hands. lacking spiritual capacity to honor my work in you. You prayed for growth, but growth requires pruning. You asked for depth, but I could not take you deeper with those attached who sought only surface safety. They would have opposed the holy steps of faith you were called to take. You were compromising subtly in ways only I saw, so I intervened. Their departure was not your fall, but your awakening. I removed them not out of cruelty, but to clear space for your shift. I saw how much power you gave to their words. You let their tone define your worth. You let their silence question your belonging. I could not allow their limits to cap your future, so I shut the door quietly and permanently. I watched you try to reopen it, not realizing your desire for reconciliation reflected the compassion I planted in you. But it was not an instruction to return. I never told you to go back to what I freed you from. That longing was noble, but some things are meant to be released, not repaired. What felt like loss was necessary separation. What felt like tearing was rescue. They could not follow you, not because they were evil, but because their presence would hinder your full becoming. They belonged to a former season. Had they stayed, you would have shrunk back to safety instead of carrying oil. I call you into new territory now, a place demanding your full identity, not a version filtered by others' expectations. I call you away from small thinking, from explaining yourself, and from seeking approval from those not sent to affirm. I have chosen voices who will recognize the new, bold, healed, surrendered you. They may not look like the ones you lost, but they will breathe life where the past drained. Release bitterness. Let go of questions. Trust my judgment. I did not allow their leaving to hurt you. I allowed it to make room for revelation. One day you will see those you thought you needed were blocking the breakthrough you prayed for. I had to make space. I had to protect your progress. Now, I position you for encounters matching your elevation. People who will not dilute your fire, but fan it. Trust me, what felt like rejection was actually your release. There came a time when surrounding sounds interfered with my whisper within you. Though many meant well, their words were shaped by worry more than wisdom. I could not let their concerns form your decisions. I watched you lean on advice when I had already planted direction inside you. You were not confused because I was unclear. You were confused because my voice competed with many others. The voices you trusted echoed limitations rooted in their experiences, not my plan for you. They did not see the blueprint I laid over your life. They did not sense the urgency pressing on your soul. Had I let you lean on them longer, you would have surrendered to their fear disguised as logic. I never asked you to seek agreement before obedience. I called you to listen, but you were surrounded by voices masking hesitation as protection. Gradually, you began to second-guess what I had confirmed in secret. So I stepped in, not to silence your community forever, but to teach you to prioritize my voice above all else. I had to strip away dependencies disguised as support. You called it loneliness. I called it recalibration. When you felt abandoned, I was removing interference. When no one answered, I was the answer you sought. This was by design. I made sure the only voice sustaining your next season was mine. I do not speak in panic. I do not guide through pressure. My voice carries peace even when disruptive. But when counsel is rooted in fear, even my words seem threatening. That is why I could not let them influence your path any longer. Dear one, it was not evil, but it was no longer aligned. I call you into uncharted places requiring spiritual clarity. You are sent to build what does not yet exist, and those who haven't seen it cannot shape it. I had to awaken confidence in you, not propped by external affirmation. I trained your ear to hear not the loudest voice, but the purest. You asked why your circle shrank. This is why not everyone can speak into what I've placed in you, and not everyone should. Your next assignment demands undiluted obedience. I am leading you where the path looks unfamiliar. Obedience demands risk, and the old ways no longer apply. In those moments, you cannot be weighed down by opinions of those who never sat in secret with me about you. You cannot carry voices never meant to bear prophetic weight. You must know my voice, not just recognize it sometimes, but trust it even when it challenges your understanding. Trust begins now. I quieted your surroundings to recalibrate your inner compass. What was once a crowd is now stillness. Do not fear it, embrace it. This stillness is sacred. In it, I am fine-tuning your ability to hear deeply. I separate volume from value. I teach the beauty of direction that needs no consensus. What I place in your spirit will no longer be filtered through others before obedience. You will walk with boldness, not pride but precision. It will come not from volume, but from deep anchoring in my voice. You are ready now, ready to walk unshaken, ready to obey immediately, ready to speak only what I have said, nothing more, nothing less. This is why I had to remove the noise, because now you can finally hear me without interference. What you called mental fog was not lack of direction. It was the unraveling of false beliefs that tangled your perception. I let uncertainty linger, not to confuse you, but to dismantle all that had quietly taken root around your soul. You accepted truths that were never mine. Wounds shaped ideas, trauma formed conclusions, and insecurity whispered lies that sounded like your own. The enemy does not always shout lies. Sometimes he buries them in repetition, cloaked in logic, tied to past disappointments until distortion feels like identity. I have been uprooting those strongholds. You did not realize how deeply your vision was clouded until I began pulling the roots out. Your internal struggle was no aimless attack, it was holy disruption. I have been peeling layers of conditioning, teaching you to expect abandonment, fear failure, and live in survival. You thought the battle was outside, but the greater war was within, the beliefs you unknowingly embraced. I could not let you carry those lies into the season ahead. They would poison your view of opportunities, relationships, and assignments. So I began a purge. I let questions rise, not to make you spiral, but to provoke examination of your foundation. Confusion was never meant to stay. It was smoke revealing fire's origin. Now the fire has refined you. I am clearing the smoke. I reveal what has always been true. Truth buried beneath shame, silencing opinions, and labels I never gave you. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not a mistake waiting correction. You are not a disappointment I merely tolerate. You are beloved, and truth is now affirming what once opposed your worth. That is why tension rose. That is why inner chaos exploded without warning. It was not regression, it was deliverance. The enemy sensed my exposure and scrambled to keep you trapped in confusion. But he has lost his hold. The moment you stopped clinging to familiarity and reached for me amid uncertainty, the lies began to lose power. I am rewriting your internal story. I teach you to recognize me without fear or performance as filters. The confusion that drained you yields now to clarity unknown before. A clarity born not of logic, but of divine truth, reshaping how you see yourself, understand me, and discern purpose. What was once fog is becoming fire. You will no longer second-guess your worth. You will no longer hesitate when I speak. The days of stumbling over lies are ending. I have brought you into the light where truth reigns. And in this light, all deception loses power. Even now, I am restoring what was stolen through manipulation and distortion. I am planting truth deep within you, not only for your freedom, but for the freedom of all those bound by your obedience. What I reveal to you in this moment will not merely shift your mindset, it will rebuild your spirit. The confusion you experienced was never a curse. It was a warning bell that drew you into my presence. And within my presence, deception fades and destiny awakens. It may have seemed like I was stripping you bare, but in reality, I was refining you until nothing remained clinging to your soul that could contaminate what I am preparing to pour into you. The process you endured was not punishment for your failures. It was preparation for a level of authority and trust that few ever attain. I did not afflict you to harm you. I allowed discomfort to expose hidden motives, buried insecurities, and internal idols that would have corrupted your assignment if left unchecked. You assumed my hand was heavy because of your mistakes, but my hand was present because of your potential. There are depths of purpose that require a furnace, not a classroom. I brought the fire not to burn you, but to remove all that was false and deeply embedded in your identity. Beliefs that told you to settle, voices that trained you to stay silent, and patterns disguising fear as wisdom. I had to make you uncomfortable enough to release what was never meant to accompany you into this new territory. This wasn't about taking from you. It was about creating space within you. The more you clung to comfort, the more you unknowingly resisted growth. So I disrupted your normalcy. I disrupted your expectations. I disrupted the rhythm you had begun to trust more than my voice. Not because you were disobedient, but because I was calling you into a purity of vision, one that only emerges after passing through holy fire and choosing not to flee. You couldn't have known then how necessary the breaking was. You only felt the sting. You only saw the fragments, but I saw the formation. I saw the new vessel emerging, one that could hold oil, not just for you, but for nations. I wasn't being cruel, I was being surgical. You were being redefined through heat, pressure, and surrender. And now, look at you. You're still standing, softer in heart, but stronger in resolve, emptied of the need to prove yourself, yet filled with the urgency to obey me without delay. This is what purification birthed, a clarity that cannot be shaken, a hunger that cannot be quenched by lesser things. You are no longer impressed by applause, no longer seduced by shortcuts, no longer entertained by distractions that once drained you. That is what purification does. It removes everything that cannot go with you and reveals what I placed within you before the world tried to reshape you. I didn't purify you to make you perfect in appearance. I purified you to make you useful in my hands. And now, because you've allowed the process to complete its work, I can trust you with sacred weight. I can pour into you without fear of leakage. I can elevate you without concern that pride will poison the platform. I can give you influence that won't become your identity. You are no longer defined by what tried to destroy you. You are marked by what refined you. The scars you carry aren't signs of shame. They are the seal of someone who didn't quit when the heat intensified. Someone who allowed me to finish what I started. And because of that, I will now lead you into a depth of purpose that you are finally prepared to sustain. Don't view the past season with regret. See it for what it truly was. Not a prison, but a refining fire. And now that the dross is gone, now that the false has been burned away, I will reveal what all that pain was producing. Power, authority, compassion, and a purity that changes atmospheres. This was not punishment, it was the process before the unveiling. And now, the unveiling begins. You wondered if my words had faded into eternity's background, as if time had eroded the intent behind my declarations. But I tell you now with absolute certainty, not a single promise has expired. I have not abandoned what I once revealed. I did not change my mind in silence. I did not withdraw my covenant when difficulties arose. I did not revoke the vision because your journey took longer than expected. What I spoke over you is still alive. It has been resting, maturing, waiting for the right atmosphere of readiness to collide with the fullness of appointed time. You looked at delays as denials, but I was guarding what was fragile. I was waiting until the soil of your soul could sustain the sea without manipulation, striving, or altering the promise to fit your patience. My promises are not bound by earthly schedules. They are held in eternity's chambers, released at the precise intersection of obedience, character, and capacity. You weren't late. The time wasn't right. You hadn't missed it. I was preparing it. You saw others receive breakthroughs and assumed yours was forgotten. But I was cultivating your endurance so that when fulfillment came, it would be deep-rooted, not shallow. You see, I'm not building fleeting moments. I'm establishing legacy, and legacy requires time. Every moment you thought was wasted has become mortar between the bricks of what I'm constructing. I didn't just want you to receive the promise. I wanted you to become the person who can live within it without sacrificing your integrity. I was shaping your inner landscape so it could handle the weight of what you've carried in prayer. The promise did not vanish. It has been circling, orbiting your life like a seed carried on winds of timing, waiting to land where it can flourish. And now the wind is shifting. Now the hour has come when I begin to bring into view what I spoke when no one else was listening. This is not a race. This is the true beginning. What once felt like distant hope is about to become tangible. You will recognize it not because it matches your imagination, but because your spirit will resonate with recognition. It will align with the shape of what I whispered in quiet places. But hear me clearly. I am not doing this just to make you feel seen. I am doing it to align your life with what I originally designed for you before fear, delay, and opposition tried to reroute your course. The path I carved for you was never canceled. It was hidden for protection, and now it is opening. You will walk into places that once felt unreachable. Doors you lacked strength to knock on will swing wide before you. The divine appointments I scheduled will unfold in ways that seem sudden to others, but will be confirmation to you. My child, you did not lose the promise. You simply hadn't reached the moment it was destined to meet you. But now, with clutter cleared, roots deeper, and vision sharpened, you will not just see the promise. You will carry it, walk with it, protect it, and pour it into others, waiting for the breakthrough you've just passed through. This is not delayed hope. This is fulfilled destiny, rising right on schedule. There were times you begged me for clarity, desperate to understand what was unfolding around you. I remained silent, not because I withheld love, but because I was applying wisdom. I saw how ready you believed you were, but I also saw the immaturity lingering in your discernment, the eagerness that hadn't learned to wait without mistaking delay for rejection. I could not give you full view because it would overwhelm the version of you still needing refinement. So I allowed you to advance one step at a time in darkness that required trust, not to punish you, but to preserve what I destined to reveal at the right stage of your becoming. You longed to enter rooms I had marked for your future, but you didn't yet understand that opportunity's presence doesn't always mean readiness. If I had granted access before your roots were deep enough, the blessing would have exposed what your preparation hadn't secured. You would have moved by assumption, not authority. You would have spoken with zeal, not wisdom. You would have built too quickly on untested ground. So I veiled your eyes, not to deprive you, but to protect what I was growing. You thought you were waiting for me to open the next season, but I was waiting for your surrender to mature into obedience without full understanding. Now that I've seen your posture shift, your steadiness when nothing made sense, I will begin revealing what was always meant to be yours. The things you couldn't understand will now make sense. Not because you demanded answers, but because you've reached the level of surrender, allowing me to give them without them becoming idols. Some doors aren't locked. They're simply shielded until character catches up with calling. Now that your character has been strengthened unseen, I will reveal what's been hidden behind veils you never knew existed. You were never behind. You weren't forgotten. You were preserved in a place of hidden transformation where I could remove old patterns, faulty expectations, and reliance on human logic that made you question if I was still moving. But I was. I was always with you. I never stopped orchestrating what your eyes couldn't see. Now I will unseal what was covered, not just around you, but within you. You will understand why I closed some chapters before they could explain themselves. You will see how what you called confusion was actually divine encryption, protecting holy blueprints from interception by insecurity. You weren't locked out, you were being equipped. Now, as the curtain lifts, you won't just walk through open doors. You'll walk with discernment, recognizing which doors are mine and which are distractions dressed as opportunity. The wisdom I'm releasing now cannot be taken. It must be carried. This is not a season of guessing. This is a season of guided steps. You will sense when to move, wait, or walk away. That awareness didn't come from exposure. It came from intimacy. Because what I kept from your mind, I fed to your spirit. Now that your spirit is quiet enough to listen, I will speak the next directions clearly. Every hidden moment will bloom into visible proof of my perfect timing. Watch, listen, move only when I say. The mystery is unfolding. Not all at once, but enough for you to walk forward without fear. You held on tightly, not because it was good for you, but because it was familiar. I had to let the foundation crack beneath your feet so you would finally release what cannot withstand the future I've written for you. I watched as you tried to hold together relationships, routines, systems, and surroundings never built to support your next level. I saw you giving energy to what drained you, loyalty to what no longer honored your growth. You weren't failing. You were attaching to things that had served their season, and in my mercy, I allowed them to collapse. You saw devastation. I saw divine redirection. If I hadn't let it fall, you would have continued investing in what lacks eternal weight. You would have poured oil into cracked vessels. You would have stayed loyal to cycles delaying your becoming. You thought you were preserving something meaningful, but you were shielding your heart from the discomfort of releasing control. Child, I never called you to control. I called you to growth. I let breaking happen not to punish you, but to wake you. I let silence remain not to confuse you, but to remove distractions. I let comfort fade, not because I was gone, but because comfort became your compass. I am jealous for your attention. I needed you to look up, pause, and ask if what you clung to still carried my breath. Some things had eternal expiration dates, but you ignored signs because emotions felt too real to question. I know how hard it was to watch unraveling. I know you grieved the versions of life you thought were permanent, but I couldn't let you live another day thinking I would bless what I was removing. I love you too much to give longevity to what cannot sustain destiny. So I let it fall, and in the falling, I created space. Space for the new to rise. Space for clarity where chaos reigned. Space for you to breathe again without carrying burdens of what I already declared finished. A chapter needed closing. A door needed shutting. Comfort needed dying. Because where I'm taking you, you can't be divided. Your heart must be free. Your vision must be clear. Your hands must be open, ready to receive what I longed to place but couldn't while they were full of yesterday's remnants. Don't fear the pieces. I allowed the structure to fall. I am now handing you the blueprint for what comes next. But this time, you won't build on need. You won't construct from fear. You won't recreate what once was. You'll move forward with intention, purity, and discernment, sharpened by fire. This time, you will know what is truly from me. You'll recognize my hand not by familiarity, but by the peace it brings. That discernment was birthed in the ruins. You cried in the collapse, but I worked in the ashes. Now what seemed like the end is the clearing, the sacred space where resurrection begins. You are not empty. You are ready. Not because you held it together, but because you surrendered what I had released. That surrender will allow me to rebuild you from the inside out, not atop crumbling structures, but on a foundation that cannot be shaken. This isn't a restart, it's a continuation. Finally, you breathe again. What felt like the end was never final, only paused, sheltered until your maturity matched the magnitude of what I appointed for you. You assumed the stop meant the end, but I never canceled your purpose. I simply waited until you could carry it without dragging yesterday's fears into today's assignments. When I pressed pause, it wasn't because you failed. It was to protect the integrity of the calling from entanglement with expectations not born in my presence. You didn't miss your window. I kept it closed until the storm passed. You didn't lose your chance. I was training your heart to discern good timing from God's timing. Look again, child. The road ahead is not unfamiliar. It's the one I showed you glimpses of long ago. The difference now is not the path, but the version of you walking it. You are not the same. You are wise. You are anchored. You no longer need applause to validate the vision. You no longer need confirmation at every step. I've built in you resilience that can't be faked and patience not born from convenience. It was forged in silence, waiting, and tears. Now what was withheld is released, not as a new plan, but the original one resumed. It may look fresh to others, but you and I know it's a continuation in my spirit. Every detour, delay, and closed door were never cancellations. They were training grounds. Your journey wasn't wasted. It has deepened. Now you step into something your spirit already knows. Even if your surroundings are new, you will feel a strange recognition in this next season. Not because it repeats, but because you saw it before, in prayer, dreams, and stillness when no one else understood. You didn't forget the vision, and I never removed it. I preserved it, refined it, and positioned you to fulfill it without compromising who you are. What others called delay was grace. I slowed the process to protect the promise. I refused to let you step in until I saw the weight wouldn't crush your hope, the spotlight wouldn't blur your conviction, and the axis wouldn't compromise your devotion. I know the pain of watching others rush ahead while you waited for me to speak. But what I give you now is worth every moment of restraint. The path I paved won't require performance. It will require trust. There will be no fight for position because this place bears your name. I wrote it into your destiny before you even asked. You're not late. You're right on schedule for resurrection. You're not behind. You're standing exactly where I planned to meet you all along. Don't look back with regret. Don't mourn time you think was lost. Nothing is wasted in my hands. Even seasons you'd rather forget have become fertile ground for what I will grow. The delay didn't damage you. It strengthened your foundation. And now, as I lift you into the places you prepared for in private, know this. You're not restarting. You're reclaiming what was always yours. You're not building again. You're building forward. And this time, nothing needs forcing, because what's for you has finally arrived. It has been waiting for the real you to step into it. You were never ignored. You were recalibrated. I stepped into your rhythm and interrupted it. Not out of frustration with your pace, but because I saw it would lead you into patterns diluting your impact. I'm not in the business of building comfort zones that become cages. So I scattered what looked promising on the surface but was never rooted in what I authored. You took the end of relationships as abandonment, halted progress as failure, and abrupt changes as punishment. But what I was really doing was restoring alignment. I saw what you couldn't. Conversations behind your back, silent compromises forming in desires, visions reshaped by those who didn't honor my hand. So I closed doors, not in anger, but mercy. I paused dreams, not to cancel your calling, but because your pursuit reflected striving more than surrender. I know how deeply you wanted to see things come to life. I saw your prayers, fasting, and faith, but I also saw hidden motives tangled in your soul. Not rebellion, but unhealed places needing my attention. You would have walked into destiny carrying mindsets that would sabotage what I was preparing you for. That's why I halted everything. That's why the plan was rerouted. Not because I forgot you, but because I was resetting the foundation. You asked for elevation, but true elevation demands a reset before it can be sustained. I couldn't allow you to build upward while cracks formed beneath. Those cracks weren't visible to others, but I saw them. I saw your masked fatigue, bent expectations, and pressure to prove yourself, even while declaring trust. So I hit pause. I dismantled idols. I slowed momentum so your spirit could breathe again. You thought I ruined progress. I was restoring your posture. I wanted your yes to come from rest, not desperation. I wanted you to dream with me again, not just for me. For that to happen, all that wasn't built on me had to fall. You didn't understand then, but I wasn't destroying your future. I was protecting it. Now, in this divine reset, I'm resetting your expectations, values, and sensitivity to my voice. I'm giving you eyes that no longer chase results but recognize fruit. I'm giving you discernment that responds to my prompting, not patterns. I'm giving you a heart that welcomes refinement, not fears loss. The reset wasn't a demotion. It was preparation for commissioning. Now that you've let go of what I removed and stopped recreating what I undid, I can build again. But this time, it will look different. It will move slower, not from delay, but depth. It will require less noise because this move is sacred. You'll sense the difference. Not in surroundings, but within, a verse begging. No more chasing what I never authored. The reset brought you back into heaven's rhythm, where grace guides and peace confirms. This is your reset. From here, I'll take you places your former pace couldn't sustain. Rebuilding has begun, not around you, but within you. Your definition of restoration was too small for what I've prepared. You looked for repair by stitching old pieces, but I never intended to return you to the past. I'm not simply replacing loss. I'm revealing what was hidden. My restoration doesn't rewind time. It realigns your life with what was written before time began. You expected closure, but it will look like resurrection. What's coming doesn't mirror the past, it eclipses it. I'm not taking you backward to retrieve failure. I'm moving you forward into what awaited, but you must release the picture shaped by disappointment. Stop expecting fulfillment in familiar forms. Those you thought would carry the promise were meant to teach you to trust me more than them. Some left not because they were wrong, but because their season served its purpose. Restoration won't come through recycled connections. It will come through unexpected sources, unfamiliar paths, and doors you didn't know existed. I will surprise you with goodness that doesn't trace back to your striving, networks, or strategies. This is not about what you build. It's about what I have already established. You will enter rooms you didn't campaign for, receive invitations unasked for, and be surrounded by those who recognize what I placed in you without explanation. I have assigned new alliances, not tied to your past, but aligned with your future. They won't flatter you. They'll protect your calling. They'll challenge your comfort so the eternal within you can rise. As for what you lost, finances, opportunities, time, strength, I'm not restoring piece by piece. I am redeeming them so thoroughly there's no trace of theft. Where you were drained, I will overflow. Where overlooked, I will anoint. Where mocked, I will honor. This restoration won't be subtle, it will be undeniable. Those who doubted your rise will be in awe, not of your success, but of your surrender. It will be clear no human hand orchestrated what I'm about to release. I'm not returning you to normal. I'm elevating you into promise. But know this, my restoration is always tied to refining. You won't just receive more, you'll be trusted with more. This isn't a reward for survival. It's commissioning after transformation. The reason you had to lose what you did, the reason some doors stayed shut longer, was to ensure you never trade your anointing for access. You're no longer desperate for validation. You're no longer tied to temporary fixes. Now I can open floodgates without fearing you'll build altars to what I never approved. I'm bringing beauty from ashes, not as you imagined, but as only I can create. It may not look like the apology you awaited. It may not feel like the full circle you envisioned, but it will carry the mark that it came from me. Watch as I restore in waves, internally and externally. Joy returns, favor increases, but more than that, clarity settles. You will no longer question your place because what I restore, I confirm with my presence. My presence will mark everything going forward. This is your moment, not to chase what left, but to embrace what I'm sending. It will be different. It will be divine. You never imagined your greatest sorrow would become your greatest testimony. You thought your weakness disqualified you, but I chose that place to display my strength. The wound you hid, the failure you carried silently, the betrayal that broke your trust, none of it is wasted. What broke you did not bury you. It revealed what needed my healing touch. Now, what made you feel disqualified is the very foundation on which I'll build your influence. You were shaped in shadows, not to stay hidden, but to emerge refined and radiant. I'm not ashamed of your story. I'm writing myself into every messy chapter. When I use it, it won't humiliate you. It will liberate others waiting for unfiltered truth. You thought scars would repel people. They will prove you survived what should have destroyed you. Your pain didn't disprove your purpose. It deepened it. I allowed you to be broken so pride has no place in what I pour through you. I didn't cause your wound, but I will redeem it. I will make it holy. I will turn it into oil. The cracks in your heart will release fragrance, not bitterness, but mercy. I will raise you, not because you're perfect, but because you surrendered when you did. When they look at you, they won't see one who climbed to success. They'll see one carried by grace. That's the testimony I want to release. Not perfection, but transformation. I will give you words that don't just sound wise, but carry the weight of experience healed by my spirit. Those who once overlooked you will be first to witness the shift. They will see your authority and wonder how it came so suddenly. But it didn't. It was formed in nights of tears, days of waiting, moments of trust when you could have run. What you learned in secret will become the foundation of your leadership, service, and speech. There is no shame in breaking. Why? Because I am the one who mends. The power you will walk in now comes from confidence in yourself and intimacy with me. You'll be unmoved by praise, unshaken by criticism, both pale next to the fire you've walked through with me. I've made your heart tender and your spirit strong. You will speak from compassion, not competition. You will lead from your limp, not your title. That limp, the weakness you hid, will be the most compelling proof I am alive in you. The cracks in your story will let my light shine through. My child, if these words found you, it's because I've been speaking to your spirit long before you pressed play. This is not the end of a message. This is the beginning of your movement. Every confirmation you felt, every tear that fell, every stirring in your heart, they are signs that I am awakening something sacred in you. So do not walk away from this moment like it was temporary. Return to this well again and again. For I am not finished speaking. Subscribe, not for routine, but because I am building a rhythm of revelation in your life. Turn on the notifications, not for alerts, but for alignment. Each time you return here, I will meet you. Each word released will be timed with precision for your spirit's next step. Share this word, not as content, but as covenant. You do not know who is one click away from their own divine awakening. Obey, and I will move through your obedience. Come back, hungry, yielded, listening. This is not entertainment. This is holy interruption. You did not stumble upon this. I summoned you. And now I say, I will speak again. Will you be here to listen? Amen.